Hello guys, and welcome to this guide on how to climb with Swain. Swain is returning for set 7.5, but this time he's back as a 7-cost dragon, and with his newfound strength, he can actually solo carry your team to victory. Along with the brand new Swain, the new set is also introducing the new darkflight trait. At the start of the fight, the centermost unit on your board gets sacrificed, and your darkflight units gain bonus HP. But that's not all. They'll also get a copy of the item that the sacrifice unit was holding. You can do some absolutely OP things with this trait, but I'll get into that later into the guide. Once you get Swain online, he can usually 1v9 for the majority of the mid and late game. With items like Archangels, he scales over time, while getting insane heals from his ability. With a solid tanky item, he can sustain a lot of damage, and meanwhile he'll burn down the enemy team with Morello. As the fight goes on, the Archangel's staff will stack more and more, and at some point, the baby dragons will just kill the whole enemy team while healing Swain to full. And for the most capped version of this board, you can go for a full dragon build where you do carry Graves. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First off, let's look at the items that are good for Swain. Swain's core items are Archangels, Morello, +1. Usually a tanky item, I really like Titans, but you can also go for Stoneblade. And in some scenarios you can also slam a healing item like Bloodthirster, Hodge or Gunblade. And meanwhile, some of the best items to put in your sacrificed unit are CC Rod and Protector's Vow. CC Rod will instantly spawn a bug on your sacrificed unit, while you also get a CC Rod on the majority of your team. And meanwhile, having multiple Protector's Vow on your team means that the armor and MR is gonna stack, making your whole team, and more importantly your Swain, insanely tanky. On first carousel, you wanna go for Belt that builds into CC Rod or Morello, or you can go for Tier that builds into Archangels or Protector's Vow. Now before we get into boards and transitions, let's look at the best augments for this comp. Ascension is great, fights always go over 15 seconds, and your Swain will just completely 1v9 with this one. Better Together is absolutely S tier here. You get the Protector's Vow and it increases the effectiveness, so it's gonna do that for all the Protector's Vow that you get from Darkflight. Meanwhile, these healing augments are gonna help your Swain survive and get to the point in the game where he can 1v9 the enemy team. The same goes for Exiles, and the shield stacks nicely together with the extra HP you get from Darkflight. Meanwhile, Best Friends can provide more armor and more attack speed for your secondary carriers. Cybernetic Shell provides a lot of defensive stats to your team here, and it's super easy stack because all of your Darkflight units get an easy item from the sacrifice. Battle Mage is also acceptable, it's more armor and it's AP for your Swain. And lastly, we have Lucky Gloves. If you can get this augment, you slam the TG on the unit that you're gonna sacrifice, and then all of your Darkflight units are gonna get insane items, and you're gonna get so much value out of this one TG. I think it's important to mention that Darkflight emblems are not really good into this comp. Tier 1 Darkflight is completely useless, and in my opinion it's not that much value at Tier 2 either. I mean, sure, you get some extra HP and an extra copy of an item on another unit, but is that really worth a Tier 2? It definitely falls off late game, and I would argue that you kinda get the same effect from playing another Darkflight unit earlier into the game. Early game, you wanna play around these core units. At level 5, you wanna play a Rengar, and then at level 6 you can put in Lilia for another Cavalier. And from here we wanna swap out Senna, and play Diana instead for Scalescorn and Assassin. Now if you don't hit Lilia and Diana, we can play another variant of this opener. Instead we play Kiana and Lee Sin. We keep Assassin and we also get Tempest. Sejuani is the perfect unit to sacrifice, because even though Sejuani dies at the start of fight, the guild bonus of extra health will still be active on the rest of your board, while you also get the extra Cavalier bonus for your frontline. Bear in mind you don't need to upgrade the Sejuani, that's basically a waste of money, since we sacrifice her anyways. Let's swap back to the Scalescorn variant and take a look at early game items. Your main priority early game should be getting a good item in Sejuani, so you have a good item to duplicate for the rest of your Darkflight units. CC Rod is great early game, and so is Protector's Vow, and there's gonna be some more examples of good Darkflight items later in the guide. You can't spell Morello without Rel, so obviously she's great at holding this item, and her ability is actually surprisingly good at applying the burn to the enemy team. And lastly, you can put Archangel's staff on Lilia, and you can also put it on Diana. Put it on whichever you 2-star first to get the most value and tempo out of the item. And if you manage to hit 2-star Rengar early, you can also itemize him. He's really good with Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, plus BT. Rengar items are fine early game, but your main priority should be getting items for Swain first. For this last variant of this early game transition, instead of playing around Assassins, we put Senna back in for Cannoneer, and then we play Set for both Dragonmancer and Ragewing. And here you wanna put the Dragonmancer's Blessing on Lee Sin. If you high roll early and manage to hit this board fairly easy, you can try to tempo into a fast state, where you can play Kiana and Rengar. to get this massive amount of synergies online. To make this play, however, you need to hit strong Augments early, and you need to get a really good darkflight item on Sejuani. The best item early game is definitely CC Rod. This one is insanely strong right now. So is Protector's Vow, and some other really good examples are Bloodthirster and Titans. These items are good because they benefit both your frontline and your backline units. In this variant, you can also put Morello on Rel, and you can also put it on Lee Sin, together with Archangel Staff for a little bit of extra damage on your board. And here you can also stack on Rengar if you hit good Rengar items. And alternatively, if you hit Aphelios too early, he's also good with the exact same items. And from here you can roll for Swain and swap out Zed and Lee Sin once you hit him. Now from the standard scale scoring variant, once you go 7, you want to start rolling for Swain, and once you hit him, you swap out Lilia and put in Swain. Now we have 6 darkflight, and we can give Swain the Archangel Staff. Bear in mind that if we stacked on Diana early, we would swap her instead and keep the Lilia so we can get the items on Swain. You also want to find a replacement Rel, so we can get the Morello on Swain as well. And if you went for CC Rod or Protector's Vow as your darkflight item, you can frontline the Aphelios. This way you get the value from the item much earlier into the fight. And that's gonna help your Swain a lot. However, you only do this if you haven't itemized your Aphelios until now. At level 8, you want to put in Graves. He's also Cannoneer, and he fits this board really well. Because then we can swap out Diana and play Kiana instead. So we keep Assassin, and we also get Tempest, which is a really good trait to splash in into the late game. That global stun is just gonna do so much work for your team. At this point, you might have slammed some Rengar items already, or maybe you haven't, but you need to decide if you want to prioritize duo carry Rengar or duo carry Graves. If you hit a lot of Rengars throughout the mid game, and it looks like you can go for 3-star, you want to itemize Rengar. However, if you don't go for 3-star Rengar, you definitely want to get the items on Graves instead, since 2-star Graves is going to be a massive duo carry into this comp. Now we're getting into the very late game, and here you can also prioritize getting a 3rd item on Swain that might be a little stronger than whatever you're sacrificing. Once you've 2-starred the majority of this board, you can go level 9, and here you can play a Hecarim to get another Cavalier and a good CC on your board, or you can play a Bard, who also provides a solid CC and a strong guild bonus. Now for the most capped version of this board, you can pivot into a full dragon build. For this, however, we need to sack the majority of our board, so you need to hit the following dragons I'm mentioning before you can make the pivot. And ideally, you want to 2-star at least the legendary dragons before you transition. Here you want to play Terra for frontline, as well as damage reduction, Xiaoyu for Mystic, and Shyvana for a massive CC. Here we get the 4 dragon bonus, so we can actually fit all of these units. Terra is also great with tanky items. Stoneplate is especially effective together with Warmarks. And here if you hit some late game AP items, instead of Shyvana, you can play Aoshin. This way we also get 4 Tempest online. And the best items on Aoshin are Archangels and Shojin. Now this is the most capped version of the board. But it's also very hard to hit, and therefore you're probably not going to be able to play it in that many games. For most games you're going to cap out around the 6 Dragonflight version, but once you do get a game where you actually manage to hit this board, you can definitely expect to completely floor the whole lobby. Now let's take a look at leveling and Econ. Having a good Econ and a good leveling curve is essential if you want to win games more consistently. You're gonna climb so much more if you learn to play like this. The leveling for this comp uses the standard forecast leveling curve. First, you need to decide if you want to pre-level into 2-1. You do this if you're sitting on 2-cost pairs and want great odds of hitting those. Don't do it if you're sitting on a lot of 1-cost pairs that you're trying to hit. In that case, you level to 4 on 2-1. Next up, you need to decide if you want to pre-level into the carousel. You do this if you're win streaking and sitting on a lot of 2-cost or maybe even 3-cost pairs. If you can make 10 gold by not leveling, you want to take the gold and then level to 5 on 2-5. You should always aim to make 20 gold going into Krugs to get your early game Econ snowballing. On 3-2, you level to 6, and here you can roll for a bit of upgrades and try to hit a stronger board. You want to do this if you're already sitting on a lot of pairs, and if you have a win streak you're trying to maintain. Try not to roll below 20 gold, so you still have some gold left to Econ throughout the stage. On 4-1, we level to 7 and roll for our core units. You want to roll until you're strong enough to face the lobby, since from stage 4 you take a lot more damage from losing fights. Again, try not to roll below 20 gold, so you have some gold left to Econ up with. If you didn't have to roll a whole lot for your board on 4-1, you can go level 8 on 4-5. If you had to roll a lot, you can do it on 5-1. Now at level 8, you want to roll the majority of your gold. You're not going to go level 9 until you hit at least Swain 2 and a pretty much fully upgraded board. Now if you're playing a super high roll game where you didn't have to roll for your board at all, you just hit everything, you can go fast 9 on 5-3. Normally you do it on 6-1, 6-3 or 6-5. And that's the end of this video. If you found this helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. This way you help the channel grow, so I can keep on making TFT guides for you guys. Good luck on the climb, and I'll see you in the next one.